let's move on to Kyle and Morgan. Okay. This is according to Dumas. As we know, Dumas is one of the blind items, all of that stuff, gossip. It says, pseudonyms, please. It's official. Cougar meets country. Loved up. This country music singer is set to premiere their relationship in a very public way. The loved up pair shot a highly coveted magazine cover, which will drop shortly and be a shock to many. This is the thing. I never thought that Kyle and Morgan were in an actual sexual relationship. I have always stood by the fact that this is a PR relationship, and I stand by that fact. I also have the clip of them at the Watch What Happens Live red carpet. So let's watch that clip, okay? And then I'm going to get into what I think is really going on. Okay, so you guys saw that, right? The whole her rubbing up on her side at Watch What Happens Live and all of these now, Dumas blind items that they're a couple and it's official and they're going to have some magazine cover. This is what I think is really going on. Number one, I think it's a PR relationship. I think that Kyle was going through some things. She listened to Morgan's music. I think that is true. Reached out to Morgan. I think Morgan's camp was like, whoa, this is Kyle Richards of Bravo, of Hilton. She has all of these fans, all of these followers. They're on NBC. Let's see what we can do to help your career with this. We'll get you followers. We'll get you money. We'll get you tour. We'll get you merchandise. Because ever since Morgan hooked up with Kyle, we now know who Morgan Wade is. She's doing an entire tour with Alanis Morissette. She's selling out her tours and her merchandise and all of this stuff. She has really had a huge come up, both in her career, in her public profile, and in her money. So Morgan Wade has profited from this beyond. I think that PR relationship contract came up and it was over. That's when we had Morgan deleting all of the Instagram photos. We had Kyle on Jeff Lewis being like, yeah, Morgan is just one chick in the rotation. She's just one friend I text. It's, the media is the one who blew everything out of proportion. Kyle was wearing a Umansky, jacket right before filming the reunion. And then she was defending Mo and all of this stuff. It basically looked like their quote friendship or relationship was over. And I was like, the contract is up. Then all of a sudden you see Morgan being like, I'm not fighting with Kyle. Then they're spotted out at like Craig's. Then, she's coming on with her to Watch What Happens Live and they're touching each other. Now there's blind items about them being together and it's official and people will be shocked and all this stuff. This is what I think happened. I think they were fearful of backlash. Because again, in 2024, the game is different. And what I mean by that, with social media, with bloggers and YouTubers and blind items and everything, and the knowledge that we now have about these fake celebrity relationships, the game is very, very different. And our temperament and our appetite and our, what word am I looking for? Threshold for the bullshit is different. So I think the fact that when it, in my opinion, became very clear that the contract was up and Kyle basically was just like, yeah, she's some chick in rotation. Morgan was like, keep me out of this. I just want to play my music now. I'm done with my devil contract, I think they were fearful of the backlash. So instead of continuing with, which I think would have been a slow fade out, they doubled down. No, we're still friends. No, we're not. No, we're not fighting. No, all of this stuff, because I don't think they wanted the backlash from the fans. Because in this day and age, we will bring you up and we will even quicker bring you down. And it was, everybody was talking about it. Oh, are they fighting? Are they not fighting? Was it fake? Was it real? Blah, 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 blah. I think this relationship is as real as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It's fake, in my opinion. It's PR and it's a stunt. Kyle needed a storyline. She needed to make Mauricio jealous. Morgan and her team wanted a come up. Now Morgan is, at award shows. She has all of these tourist stuff. She sold everything out. And I think their camps were fearful that if they did not continue the charade, there would be a backlash. And that's why now they're doing the most. Touching her butt at Watch What Happens Live. Like, come on. Leaking stuff to Dumas. Come on. Come on. We're not stupid. We're not stupid. But they like to play in our face like we are. I also think that when it comes to Kyle and Mauricio, I think that Kyle wants Mauricio back. But I think Mauricio has checked all the way out. All the way out. And I think that the fact that Mauricio is now checked all the way out, and I think he may have come to a peace or terms with his marriage being over, not necessarily divorcing, because at this point, they're in their mid to late 50s. They have no prenup. All the kids are basically almost grown, not out the house because because basically all the kids live at the house except for the eldest one. So not necessarily out the house, but they're all basically almost grown. Portia's 15, 16, not saying she's an adult, but you know what I mean, about to go off to college in a year or two. I think from an economical standpoint, I think Mauricio is okay with not divorcing. Let's just roll with it from a monetary stance. I don't think any of them are interested in necessarily getting married to somebody else. I don't think any of them are interested in having any more children. And usually those are reasons why people get divorced. They want to separate the funds, separate the property, get remarried one day, have children one day, or more children one day. That's not the case for these two. So I think Mauricio was like, well, wait a minute. The reason why I didn't want to say we were separated was because I didn't want to tarnish the brand. But at this point, I've talked about it on the show, the Netflix show. He was more honest about their breakup than she was on his little Netflix show than she was the entire 13 seasons of Beverly Hills. He was more honest in a 60-second clip. I think that he is more resolved with them not being together. And I think that Kyle is regretting how she handled the separation. I think she thought it would scare him. Like when you're like young and stupid and you're like, oh my God, let's take a break because you want to scare the guy into committing to you. But then sometimes it like backfires and they're like, okay, bye. And you're like, wait, no, you're supposed to like blow up my text and like send me like flowers and bags. And you're supposed to like, win me back. I think Kyle was so desperate and needy and wanting his attention and his time that I think the whole let's separate, you do you, I do me was her way of getting his attention. And I think that has now backfired. That's what I think is going on with them. I think Mauricio was like, well, wait a minute. I can date other people without people thinking I'm the bad guy. And us not being together hasn't really affected my brand the way I thought it would. Okay. That's kind of where I think Mauricio has landed on all of this. And then Kyle came out and said, because remember when it was like, oh, Mauricio, he's with the ski bunnies in Aspen, the influencer girls. And over here at the Candy Canes, we knew that was fake. I was like, that's a PR thing. I was like, that looks like a campaign or whatever. And it turns out all of that was filming for his show. So in season 2 of Buying Beverly Hills, he's filming for the show. And that's why he's with the influencer girls. They're supposed to be clients, allegedly. And they're out and they're taking photos and they're doing Instagram and they're posting and they're tagging. and they're on the show. So they're basically filming for the show. That's what Kyle said, at least. And I believe that, because that whole stuff about Mauricio and the young influencers, that didn't make any sense. It just seemed very photo op to me. It seemed like a sponsored campaign. And turns out it was. It was for his show, and it was all a campaign. With that being said, I think Mauricio kind of tapped out. I think he didn't understand his wife's personality change, her unhappiness, because I think that he was just still business as usual. Now, I'm not defending Mauricio in this. I understand how he felt, but I'm not defending him, because I do think he probably should have stepped up for his wife. If your wife has a complete personality overhaul, if her best friend took her own life, if she is saying, I am depressed and I am low, if she is saying, I want out of this marriage, you as a husband who already has enough money for multiple generations, it's not like he has to work in order to provide, and it's either I work to provide or my family goes without. That's not the case. He's working for his own ego because he wants 100 offices open by the end of the year, because he wants to be the biggest agency in the world, because he wants accolades. So if you are in the position, if you have the privilege and you have the luxury to slow down, to take a step back, and to focus on the well-being of your family, the mental health of your wife, you should, because that is unfortunately a privilege. It is a privilege to say, I'm going to step back from work to look after the emotional and mental, and on some level, spiritual well-being of my family. That is a privilege that the majority of people do not have. The majority of people got to figure it out while going to a 9-to-5, while paying all the bills, while keeping food on the table. The majority of people have to figure all of that stuff out and still survive. So I think Mauricio is dead wrong for the way he handled what happened with Kyle. And I'm gonna give Kyle some grace here. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm always gonna keep it real. I know Kyle can be vile and she can be manipulative and she can be whatever and all of that stuff. I get it. I've talked about it a million times on my own channel. I get that. I get it. But I also understand that she's a human being and that she really was going through something, and that her husband of 27 years was simply not there for her, and that she is doing everything, not perfectly, but to be honest, textbook. When people are in crisis or in trauma, that's usually how people act and respond. They do attention-seeking behavior. They do total life changes that people are like, you're not drinking and you lost all this weight and you have a lesbian lover and you're getting tattoos and you're angry all the time and you're doing all of this stuff. And all of that is pretty textbook for someone who has faced true trauma and loss and identity crisis. And the way people process trauma usually is not healthy. That's why you usually get help in order to process the trauma in a healthy way. So how she was processing the trauma and needing his attention wasn't healthy. She's snapping at him. She's angry at him. She's doing all of this stuff to get his attention, and it's not working. He's just confused and then angry and not sure what's going on. But it's pretty textbook, because people don't usually process trauma on their own in a very, well, Mauricio, let me sit here and tell you these are my feelings, and I'm on step 3 in the grieving process, and this is how. No, people don't operate like that. That's why people get help. They get a professional who helps them process the trauma in a healthy way. Okay? I think he was dead wrong for the way he handled it, because he had the luxury and he had the privilege of slowing down, of prioritizing, his wife. If for nothing else, the fact that your wife has been very vocal that she's been depressed, she's at her lowest, and her best friend just took her own, self out, if for nothing else, those factors should have given him enough pause to be like, wait a minute, there's something bigger going on here, and I need to step in and look after the mental health of my wife. Now, I get it. I get Kyle is vile and what she did to LVP and how she's a pot stirrer and all this stuff. I totally get that. And that's a fun kiki. But right now, I'm talking about as an actual human being. Mauricio was dead wrong, because I don't care how oblivious and confused he wants to act. I also think he used his oblivion and confusion as a way to not deal with his wife going through a crisis. Because we were talking about Kyle being in a crisis last year on my channel. So if we are talking about Kyle going through a crisis last year on my, lovely YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure her husband knew she was going through a crisis. But checking out and business as usual and being dismissive of her and acting confused and not knowing what's going on is could even be his own coping mechanism, because maybe he doesn't want to actually admit there is something fundamentally wrong here. There is something truly wrong in my marriage and within my wife. But I do think he had the wherewithal and he had the privilege and the luxury to check out. That's just kind of what I think about that. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think. Whew. So put it down below. Do you think Kyle and Morgan are a real relationship, or do you think they are a PR relationship? They tried to end it, but quickly they realized that we were on to them and they're fearful of the negative backlash. So now we're getting a lot of performative things. We're getting people leaking stuff to Duma. We're getting Morgan all of a sudden grabbing Kyle's butt, and what do you think about Kyle and Mauricio? Is their marriage truly over? Should he have tried harder? Should she have tried harder? Or maybe it's just time for them to go their separate ways. So let me know what you guys think about what's going on. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Tay-Tay, so much for the super sticker. I just saw it, so thank you so much. So Tay-Tay says, Kyle has always surrounded herself with yes women. That is true. That is very, very true. When it comes to Kyle, if you are not her yes person, she will become the victim and ice you out. That is very, very true. So I'm going to drop the link in case anybody wants to come up and chat. And in the meantime, I will take some of your candy cane questions and comments. Okay. And again, thank you so much, Tay-Tay, for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get up here. Da, da, da. There's so many comments. I'm trying to get to a good one, or to the top. Okay. Bear with me, guys. All right, here we go.